Episode 1: Genesis Origins and the Mysterious Nephilim. A dense, ghostly mist clings low over a sprawling primeval forest, thick and heavy, like a living breath exhaled by the ancient earth itself. Towering trees rise as silent sentinels, their skeletal branches clawing skyward toward an unseen firmament, shrouded in shadow and mystery. The stillness is profound, punctuated only by the faint rustle of leaves and distant calls of creatures long vanished. From within this shadowy realm, whispered voices stir echoes of a world long past, telling of colossal beings who once strode these lands, giants whose footsteps thundered through the mists before the floodwaters reshaped the earth. The boundary between heaven and earth seemed thinner then, permeable even. Something ancient and enigmatic stirred beneath the mist, a presence both terrifying and awe-inspiring, blurring the lines between the divine and the mortal. Welcome to Faith and Facts, where biblical history meets archaeology and ancient mystery. The Nephilim in Scripture. Our journey begins in one of the Bible's most cryptic and hotly debated passages. Genesis 6:1-4. Here we read that the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves. From this mysterious union emerged the Nephilim, a word heavy with enigma, often translated as giants or fallen ones. The Hebrew term Nephilim derives from the root NPL, meaning to fall. Yet scholars remain divided on what precisely these fallen ones fell from. Was it grace, stature, innocence, or some other cosmic state? This ambiguity has fueled centuries of theological debate, inspiring countless interpretations and theories. Who were the Nephilim? The biblical text offers few direct answers, but their shadow looms large as a portent of chaos in the antediluvian world. That mysterious era before the flood. Were they literal giants, towering figures whose colossal presence inspired fear and awe? Or perhaps they were supernatural beings, part divine, crossing the threshold into the earthly realm. The phrase sons of God itself is open to several readings. Some see them as angelic beings, messengers from the heavenly courts. Others interpret them as descendants of Seth, Adam's faithful son. Still others believe they were powerful ancient rulers, tyrants whose deeds corrupted the earth. This passage sits at a fascinating intersection where biblical theology meets the wider tapestry of ancient Near Eastern mythologies. Cultures from Mesopotamia to Ugarit tell stories of gods descending to earth, mingling with humans, and producing mighty offspring. These parallels do not diminish the uniqueness of the biblical narrative, but rather situate it within a broader ancient cultural milieu, inviting us to explore the shared questions humanity has long pondered about divine-human interaction and the origins of evil. Reflective question: what might the presence of the Nephilim reveal about humanity's earliest understanding of the divine, and the fragile boundaries that separate heaven from earth, sons of God and daughters of men? The phrase sons of God opens a window into ancient conceptions of spiritual and social order. In the Hebrew Bible, it sometimes denotes angelic beings, spiritual entities who dwell in the heavenly realm, distinct from mortal men. The book of Job, for example, depicts the sons of God assembling before the divine throne, messengers of heaven witnessing God's sovereign plans. Could Genesis 6 be hinting at a time when these angelic beings crossed from their celestial domain into the earthly world? Alternatively, some scholars argue that the sons of God were not angels, but rather the godly descendants of Seth. In this interpretation, the daughters of men represent the ungodly descendants of Cain. This intermarriage would symbolize the breaking down of sacred, social, and spiritual boundaries, a mixing of the faithful and the faithless, the righteous and the corrupt. The consequences of this union, the text implies, were dire. If the sons of God were indeed angelic, the narrative suggests a cosmic rupture, a breach between the divine and the human, where heavenly beings transgressed their appointed place. This theme finds echoes in ancient texts like the Book of Enoch, a fascinating work outside the biblical canon, yet influential in early Jewish thought. It tells of the Watchers, angels who descended to earth, imparting forbidden knowledge to humanity and fathering giants, sowing corruption and disorder. Though non-canonical, the Book of Enoch reveals how deeply ancient peoples grappled with the enigma of divine beings interacting with humans, and the moral and cosmic consequences of such encounters. Reflective question: how do these differing interpretations challenge us to reconsider the nature of divine interaction with humanity and the meaning of sacred boundaries? The pre-flood world conditions. Genesis 2:5-6 offers a striking detail about the antediluvian world. Before rain fell, a mist rose from the earth to water the land. This suggests a radically different hydrological cycle than we experience today. Rather than periodic rains, the earth was enveloped in a constant, steady mist. Perhaps a thick, humid atmosphere, creating a greenhouse-like environment. Modern scientific hypotheses propose that such a mist could correspond to an early Earth atmosphere with heightened moisture retention and stable temperatures. This warm, humid environment would nurture lush, verdant ecosystems, dense forests of towering trees, giant ferns, and plants unlike those known today. In this primeval world, life may have flourished with an intensity and scale lost to time. The possibility of a greenhouse Earth fits intriguingly with the biblical description and opens the door to imagining a landscape where massive creatures, including the Nephilim, could plausibly exist. Paleontological evidence confirms that Earth's past is populated with megafauna, enormous reptiles, giant mammals, and other creatures of extraordinary size. While the Nephilim are unique to Scripture, the concept of giants fits within the broader narrative of a world once very different from ours. Geological and climatic studies reinforce this idea. Fossilized plants, sediment layers, and ice core data provide clues to Earth's changing climate, supporting theories of a warmer, more humid, ancient atmosphere. Although debated, the concept of a pre-flood greenhouse Earth helps bridge Scripture and science, giving us a glimpse into a vanished world capable of sustaining extraordinary life forms. Understanding this environment is essential to grasping the Nephilim's place in history. These beings did not wander a post-flood, familiar world, but a primeval Earth shaped by unique climatic and ecological forces. Conditions long lost, yet preserved in the whispers of Scripture and the fossils beneath our feet. Reflective question: what does imagining this ancient world teach us about the interplay between the environment and the legends that emerge from it? Biblical interpretations and scholarly debates. The narrative of the Nephilim stands as one of the Bible's most compelling and complex enigmas, inspiring varied interpretations across theology and scholarship. Some take a literal approach, affirming that giants physically walked the earth, playing a significant role in the antediluvian history recorded in Scripture. These interpreters argue that the Nephilim were real beings whose existence helps explain the flood as divine judgment. Others interpret the passage metaphorically, viewing the Nephilim as symbolic figures representing moral corruption, social upheaval, or tyrannical rulers whose arrogance provoked divine wrath. Still others approach the text with theological nuance, seeing the Nephilim as hybrid beings, part divine, part human, whose crossing of boundaries symbolizes the cosmic disorder preceding the flood. Despite these differences, one theme remains consistent: the Nephilim are never dismissed as mere fables. They inhabit a historical theological framework, leading inexorably toward the flood. A cataclysmic event understood as God's judgment on a corrupted and broken world. Respectful scholarship approaches the subject with care, distinguishing between the biblical text and the layers of interpretation and legend accreted over millennia. This balance honors Scripture as spiritual authority while inviting inquiry into archaeological and historical evidence that may shed light on this shadowed era. Join us as we uncover the ancient world that shaped these stories, a world swallowed beneath floodwaters but preserved in Scripture and stone. What might this primeval world have looked like? What secrets lie hidden beneath layers of earth and time, waiting to be revealed? As we press onward in this investigation, the environment nurturing such beings becomes a central focus. Could a mist-shrouded, greenhouse-like world have supported giants unlike any we know today? What evidence do ancient climates, fossils, and geology provide about life before the flood? Next, we journey into the ancient climate itself, the mysterious mist, and the possibility of a world thriving with colossal life forms. Stay with Faith and Facts, where every ancient story unfolds with new evidence and insight. The mystery of the Nephilim has only just begun.